It's easy to judge what you don't understand. From the outside, you see the patch, the leather, the growl of the engine. You see outlaws. You see the broken law, the spilled blood, the refusal to kneel to the world's quiet hypocrisy. But the world only cares about the label you wear, not the cost of the justice you deliver. And sometimes, the only way to save a life, to uphold a true vow, is to break every single rule in the book. That was the life of the Black Iron Brotherhood, a motor club etched into the backbone of the forgotten highways. A club built on a single, unwavering code. Honor above law, family above all. And in the dusty town of Redemption Pass, that code was about to be tested against a darkness no court could ever touch. Redemption Pass was a ghost town swallowing itself whole, bled dry by the corporate greed of Omni-Rail, a freight company that acted less like a business and more like a land baron. They were pushing families off their generational farms, exploiting legal loopholes, and threatening resistance with a heavy hand. The local sheriff was paid off, the courts were slow and corruptible, and the only sound louder than the silence of despair was the constant rumble of Omni-Rail's steel wheels carrying stolen cargo. The Brotherhood didn't choose this fight. The fight chose them. It started with a name, the Miller family. For 3 generations they'd worked the land along the old track. Now, the patriarch, an old man named Samuel, was clinging to a broken promise and a mortgage that Omni-Rail had engineered to be impossible. His daughter, Sarah, was doing everything she could, protesting, writing letters, begging, but the machine was too big. Their final notice was delivered by Omni-Rail's chief enforcer, a hulking man named Thorn. Thorn didn't wear a suit. He wore black tactical gear and carried the stench of institutionalized violence. He gave Sarah 3 days. 3 days to abandon the family farm before his crew came to clear the land. That same night, the Black Iron Brotherhood was rolling through. They were headed south, aiming for the border, but fate, or perhaps a higher judge, decided to reroute their journey. They pulled into Redemption Pass because their president, a man they called Grave, had a flat tire that even their seasoned mechanics couldn't immediately fix. They set up camp in a dilapidated, abandoned garage on the edge of town. Their silence a temporary bruise on the town's forced peace. Grave wasn't a hero in the traditional sense. He had eyes that had seen too much darkness and hands that had dealt too much pain. His code was simple: protect the weak, punish the cruel. But that code came at the cost of his own freedom and comfort. He carried the burden of every violent decision, every line crossed, and it was beginning to weigh heavy on his soul. He was, quite literally, dying. A deep, unforgiving illness had taken root in his lungs, a consequence of his years riding hard through toxic city air and forgotten factory towns. The doctors gave him months, maybe less. He knew this was his last ride, his last chance to ensure the Brotherhood's legacy was one of honor, and not just outlaw. He had a vow to keep, a promise to himself. His final act would be one of true, undeniable justice. The next morning, Sarah Miller found them. She saw the bikes, the patches, and her first instinct was fear. But desperation is a powerful tonic. She walked into the garage, her voice shaking, clutching the eviction notice like a death warrant. "They're taking my home," she whispered to Grave, who sat watching her from the shadows, his face a roadmap of hard years. "They're destroying everything. The law won't help. The sheriff is on their payroll." Grave looked at the eviction notice, then at the fear in her eyes. He saw not a victim, but an innocent crushed by an overwhelming, unjust force. This was the kind of rot that the Brotherhood was truly born to excise. "What is your name, daughter?" Grave's voice was a low rasp, like gravel rolling over metal. "Sarah Miller. It's my father's land. They're coming for it the day after tomorrow." Thorn and his crew. Grave closed his eyes, drawing a slow, painful breath. He knew Thorn. Thorn was an ex-military contractor, notorious for his ruthless efficiency and disregard for civilian life. This wasn't just eviction, it was a hostile takeover, violence guaranteed. "We don't work for hire," said Judge, the club's vice president, stepping forward. Judge was the club's legal mind, the man who knew the law only so he could navigate the spaces between it. We don't get involved in property disputes. Grave held up a hand, silencing Judge. He looked at Sarah again. They aren't taking property, Judge. They are taking life. They are taking the past, the present, and the future of a family. They are doing it with the stamp of corrupt authority. This is not a dispute. This is road justice. He handed the notice back to Sarah. We stay. We finish what Omni-Rail started. This wasn't a request for help. It was a declaration of war. Grave's final ride was about to become his final stand, a last defiant act of honor for a club that had spent its existence labeled as villains. The clock was ticking. They had less than 48 hours to prepare for Thorn's assault, an assault that the law would label as legitimate, and the Brotherhood's defense as a criminal act. The irony was not lost on Grave. He was choosing to die a criminal in the eyes of the law, but a man of honor in the eyes of his code. He knew this was the end of the line, and he was determined to make his final exit count. The preparations were swift and silent. The Brotherhood didn't need blueprints. They needed conviction. Judge began scouting the land, mapping the routes Thorn's crew would take. The old Miller farm was secluded, surrounded by fields and a narrow, winding access road, a perfect choke point. The other members, Fuse, the explosives expert, Stitch, the medical officer, and the rest of the silent, hardened crew, began fortifying the farmhouse. They weren't building walls to keep people out. They were building a fortress to protect the vow. A vow that Grave was making with every labored breath, the Miller's stay. Sarah, initially terrified of their presence, began to see the cold, focused precision of their movements. They didn't smile. They didn't offer comfort, but they worked with an efficiency that screamed commitment. They were monsters doing the work of angels. Grave spent the remaining hours sitting by the small, sputtering fire in the garage, cleaning his old service revolver, a weapon that had become an extension of his will. He knew the fight would be brutal. Omni-Rail used mercenaries, men who had sold their souls for a paycheck, men who believed in nothing but brute force. But the Brotherhood believed in something deeper. They believed in the dying vow, and a man fighting his last battle is the most dangerous force on earth. The wind picked up, a mournful sound echoing the town's despair, but Grave merely gripped the cold steel of the revolver, a silent promise to the dark. This was their last act. The sun rose on the day of the eviction with a sickly, bruised orange light, casting long, stark shadows across the Miller farm. It was the morning of the reckoning, the moment the outlaws would become the unexpected shield. Grave had gathered his men inside the farmhouse, the silence punctuated only by the clicking of chambers and the dry cough that racked his body. He stood before them, his leather vest pulled tight over his failing frame, the black iron patch catching the meager light. "They'll come hard," Grave rasped, his voice barely a whisper, yet carrying the weight of command. "Thorn doesn't negotiate, he demolishes. Remember the code. This isn't about territory or profit. This is about the vow. We protect the innocents. We show them what true outlaw honor means. We are the last line of defense against the legal kind of evil." Judge stepped forward, his eyes sharp and focused. "Omni-Rail's legal team is ready to spin this. If we stand down, the Millers lose everything. If we fight, we become fugitives with murder charges." "There's no clean win, Grave." Grave met his gaze. "A clean win only exists in fairy tales, Judge. We chose the road. We chose the dirt and the blood. Better to die a man of honor, hunted by the law, than live a coward letting injustice stand. This is my last ride, boys. Make it count." Sarah and her father, Samuel, were hidden deep in the cellar. Samuel had insisted on staying, not to fight, but to witness the end of his legacy. He saw the cold determination in Grave's eyes, and for the first time in months, he felt a flicker of hope, a violent, desperate hope, that someone, anyone, cared enough to stand against the tide. They didn't have to wait long. The low, heavy rumble of Thorn's crew arrived not in motorcycles, but in fortified pickup trucks and an armored earth mover ready to flatten the house and the family history along with it. Thorn himself stood silhouetted against the morning sun, a megaphone in his hand. "Black Iron Brotherhood," Thorn's voice boomed across the fields. "This is a legal eviction. Stand down, abandon the property, and you will be dealt with by the law. Resist, and you will be dealt with by me. You chose the wrong fight, outlaws." Grave, armed with his service revolver, walked slowly onto the porch, his back straight, the dying man defying the world. He didn't raise his weapon. He didn't shout a threat. He spoke only 4 words, a defiant statement of their code. Road justice is served. The battle began not with a shot, but with a calculated disruption. Views, positioned silently in the thicket, triggered a series of directional flashbangs and small controlled charges, not designed to kill, but to cripple the assault vehicles. The armored earth mover ground to a halt as its hydraulic lines were severed by an unseen explosion. The tires of the pickups blew, forcing Thorn's crew, mercenaries armed with heavy-duty riot gear and military-grade deterrents, to dismount and advance on foot. This was the Brotherhood's advantage. They didn't fight to win a territory. They fought to protect a specific space, using guerrilla tactics honed over decades of dodging rivals and law enforcement. The mercenaries were trained for open-field assaults. The outlaws were masters of close-quarter defense. The fight devolved into a chaotic, brutal exchange around the perimeter of the farmhouse. Grave directed the defense, his tactical mind sharp, even as his lungs burned. He moved with a heavy, deliberate slowness, making every move count. He focused on neutralizing the threats, not executing them. Their code allowed violence, yes, but only violence necessary to uphold the honor. Judge was a whirlwind, utilizing the cover of the farm's old tractor shed, taking out communication lines and disabling key tactical mercenaries with non-lethal targeted strikes, broken joints, shattered kneecaps. They were proving a point. The outlaws are better disciplined than the mercenaries. But Thorn was relentless. He led a charge toward the house, his eyes fixed on Grave, recognizing the president as the center of the resistance. Thorn carried a heavy-gauge stun rifle designed to incapacitate targets permanently. "You should have stayed on the road, old man," Thorn yelled, charging the porch steps. Grave didn't flinch. He let Thorn get close, closer than any sane man would. As Thorn raised the rifle, Grave sidestepped with a surprising burst of speed, drawing his heavy revolver and aiming not at Thorn's head, but at the rifle's power pack. The shot was loud, definitive, and perfectly placed. The power pack exploded, sending a shower of sparks and rendering the weapon useless. Thorn staggered back, his face a mask of shock and rage. He drew a combat knife, reverting to primal close-quarters aggression. This was the moment Grave knew he had to finish it. This was the last act. The brawl between the 2 men was savage, a fight between a man fueled by money and a man fueled by a dying conviction. Grave was slower, weaker, but his knowledge of fighting dirty was instinctual. He blocked the knife with his forearm, taking a shallow cut, and used the momentum to drive the butt of his revolver, not the barrel, into Thorn's temple. Thorn dropped like a stone, unconscious. The fall of Thorn was the signal. The remaining mercenaries, seeing their leader defeated and their vehicles disabled, realized they were not fighting outlaws. They were fighting a wall of conviction. The tide of the battle turned instantly. The Black Iron Brotherhood, having inflicted maximum tactical damage with minimal lethal force, stood victorious. The silence that followed was heavy, broken only by the whimpering of the defeated mercenaries and Grave's labored breathing. Grave stood over Thorn, the dying vow fulfilled. He then walked back inside the farmhouse, where Samuel and Sarah were emerging from the cellar, their faces streaked with tears of disbelief and relief. "It is done," Grave said simply, collapsing into an old rocking chair. "The land is yours. Omni-Rail won't come back. Not here. Not ever." He handed Sarah a slip of paper. It was a crude map leading to a legal document Judge had prepared, a carefully crafted loophole that, combined with Omni-Rail's now exposed illegal violence, would tie up the land in court forever, making it worthless to the corporation, but safe for the millers. Judge looked at Grave, tears welling in his eyes. "We have to go, President. The police will be here in minutes." Grave nodded, his eyelids heavy. He looked at Sarah, at Samuel, at the restored hope in their weary faces. He had been labeled a villain his whole life, but today, in his final moments, he was a hero. "Go!" Grave rasped, pushing Judge away. "Ride hard. Keep the code. I stay. I told you this was my last ride. He looked at the open door, ready for the sirens, ready for the final consequence of his honor. He pulled his vest tighter, feeling the cold steel of the revolver still warm in his grip. The Black Iron Brotherhood roared their engines, disappearing into the dust, carrying the legend of their president's dying vow. Grave closed his eyes, his peace finally found, the sound of the approaching sirens fading into the quiet dignity of his final, heroic act. The outlaw was gone, but the vow remained.